The game starts long before the game starts. And warm hands are faster hands. Gain the upper hand and power up your pregame warm-up with Zippo hand warmers.
Got it to take it to overtime in the first map here of the series, but in the end, it's going to be MXS 14-12 to close out the very first map, stealing TSM's pick away from them in the all-decisive series. I mean, we were looking at that first map. We got to see such a back and forth, such a close matchup between these two teams on Sunset.
Oh, I think Don called it at the start of this game. This is TSM's brand. They are very scrappy. And for a good part of this map, they were able to drag MXS down to the muddy depths and, and force them sort of into this very, very back and forth, very individualized style. We saw the same look from TSM again, like really leaning on Sims Neon, which was definitely a highlight for them. But man, step into the Broctagon, you're going to know about it.
Yeah, scrappy indeed. It would not be a TSM victory without, or a TSM map rather, without a couple scrappy rounds, couple rounds thrown, couple rounds won that we didn't deserve. That's all right though. I mean, that's how these guys like to play, and for the most part, it's working for them. But my gosh, we talked about it before this map about how everybody on MXS needs to step up and help out Mata, and I think Brock heard that and took it personally. I mean, 28 and 16 on the Sova. This man was an animal with 299 ACS. This is exactly why they call him the Big Brock.
Broctagon really putting in that work today. I mean, it was incredible, and I think a really good testament too to MXS that it isn't just what Mata can do. It isn't just getting through Mata. If Mata has a great game, I think this is a impossible team to get through, but really showing that it doesn't have to all be. LeBrock was putting in huge work, even if this was just so close. And TSM, they definitely had some really good step-up moments as well throughout it. I mean, there was great shutdowns at Sim. I mean, we could talk for hours about Sim, honestly. This Neon really just putting in the work, but looking through this, I feel like this sets a really fun precedent into the next map of the series, like how everyone got to step up this first time.
Yeah, I'm going to put it out there. To circle back to the storyline, I did say I wanted to see Odashima and Vic step up on this map, and they both did. They had a really, really good game. Oda got pressured very heavily, I think, on that defense side where MXS started, was the weak side, holding that B solo. Eventually, though, you saw MXS start to get a bit more of a feel for what TSM were going for. I really think that they played quite well, actually, around a lot of TSM's sort of attack side gimmicks and a lot of their sort of set plays, which we can probably talk about in a moment here. But generally, you can't... Yeah, it's crazy to account for, Brock just going absolutely bonkers like this. Just an insane individual performance. But, it was a real team effort, and I love the MXS defense side to start with, at least.
I mean, you're talking about going around set plays. It rolls time to the first one, round 6.
Yeah, I mean, so TSM go for this trap play here behind the breach, and Sim is getting in their face, right? We lose Vic, that's fine. Mata falls off this site, but I think Flyer actually tried to trade for Mata, even though he'd fallen back. But they give up the site. Mata just sits inside elbow here and allows TSM to impale themselves on their own bayonets in this round. This is what we were talking about. This is one of the strengths, I think, of TSM's Neon-based comp. But if you fall off that site and give up elbow, give up a little bit of space and have a good flood retake, you're in great position. That could have gone really wrong for MXS. That Flyer tries to, fight. I think there's some wires getting crossed there or something. But that round went quite well. Unfortunately, TSM get let back into that half because MXS start fighting for that position. They're getting caught in these breach fault lines and a lot of this stun utility because they're unwilling to sort of fall off those positions and sort of play back onto the side. That's where the only thrifty of the map happened, where TSM walked up, used all their util, had the Neon play, and they basically killed them with a bunch of sheriffs. That allowed TSM to end up with a 7-5 score on that attacking side. And MXS had to work pretty hard to bring things back. Winning the pistol definitely didn't hurt, though.
It definitely did not there, but I wanted to start talking about a little bit later in the game here, Don. Looking back at round 17 here, once we got to see these teams face off a little bit more and things getting quite close.
Yeah, this is a great set play coming out from MXS here. I mean, we kind of missed it at the beginning, but Vic throws out a smoke as the Neon sprints up middle, and both Neon and Omen are going to peek at the same time while a Paranoia comes out and a dart from Brock to recon scan over there. And then they pinch into the site, right? Brock's going to drone in through A main while the players on A are worried about these guys that just TP'd and sprinted up behind them. And then it's just a 5v2 as these guys get pinched into elbow and absolutely obliterated. This is clearly something they had in the playbook ready for when Vic has that ultimate ability and something they pulled out and executed to flawless perfection.
I know for myself, there was just a second look at like, how fast did they whip around there to just be able to pull this off? Like, they were on it. That was a lot of fun to see. Great plays coming out from both squads. But now we have to start looking at later this next map in the series. Because if you're a TSM fan out there, this starts to look super, super scary. Ascent is next up. MXS is picked. But TSM were actually banning this out before and after their loss to Core here back in week 4. And they had to swap over to banning out Abyss that first time. So now when your life, your chance at Ascension is all down to this Uber, that's a terrifying prospect.
Absolutely. They are really going to have to find an edge here in a few places. And this is not a great map for them. And the last time they played it in stage 2, it's because Core picked this map. Like, they're obsessed with playing this map and getting Zeldris in a position just to pop off in general, which he, didn't actually in that series. He didn't really have to. But Marta's going to be a problem here. Depending on the kind of composition that you play, you need to be able to force Marta off a lot of those angles. If he's on the defense side and he gets to settle into picking up an early operator, he's going to be a big problem because he's very dynamic. He's always floating in between mid. He'll sink over, towards tree, take that position at A heaven and be pretty hard to play into in general. And if we do see TSM come out with like that double sentinel composition, which, would be interesting. A few teams are trying it. That's one less agent's worth of utility that you have to try and take map control away from a jet that threatens to dominate you with that position. So keep an eye out for that here. You will see the deadlock, I think, coming out from MXS, though.
Yeah, we've seen it before, but let's head into the agent select and see what they're thinking about today. We got to see a little swap up in the last series. But Don, I want impressions then heading into this agent select.
It's about what we expected here, but, I'm really digging the TSM comp. It's a little out of the ordinary, pulling from the cooking lab. No, I'm just kidding. This is the standard base, just about Ascent comp that you'll see, but with a proto on the Cypher rather than the Killjoy. I think it's something that suits his playstyle and a bit of a comfort pick from him. But I think TSM are in a good spot here, at least in terms of agents, to try and shut down this attempt from Moist to run the double sentinel, which I really like and has been coming out and becoming a bit more popular here, especially in Challengers. So, but I think overall there's a lot more nuance that goes into this map. This is not a regular season match. This is you're going back against the wall 0-1. Yes, TSM, you're going into this. This is not a map that you're favored on. This is not a map that you're used to playing, but there's more to it than that, right? This is all the pressure on. The onus is on Moist to come in and shut this down in a 2-0, and TSM have to fight their way back to stay alive for their year, right? This is Ascension on the line and something that they're going to have to dig deep and pull upon all the experience of their very veteran players to pull something out here magical on Ancient and see if, or on Ascent rather, and see if we can bring this to a map 3 against Moist.
Everything's in Moist X Shopify's favor right now. It's their map pick. They're up 1 in the series. They are fragging out TSM. It's now or never for the step up on Ascent. Can they do it? Take it to a map 3? Let's find out. Let's head over to Vance and Lemon for Ascent.
Thank you so much, Sierra. Oh, we're playing Ascent for Ascension. Like, it's poetic at this point.
It is for sure. And it's going to be a tough game for TSM going into the second map, because I thought it was going to be one of those series where you kind of trade off maps. TSM's looking pretty good on Sunset, and then you're going to have MXS win Ascent because Mata just pops off on this very map, and it's very hard to control MXS on this map. And then we go to a third map where everything's decided on Haven. But now it's starting to look pretty good here for MXS to potentially close this off on a 2-0. Mata's always been so active around this map, so good on how he runs around the map, especially on the defensive side. And you're hoping that Sim, from the way that he's been playing Neon in the past 2 days, could do some very similar things to keep this game close and give a chance now for TSM to stay alive and push this to a third map.
And like we said before, like, Sim dropped like 30 kills last map, but that's Mata on Neon. That's not his usual agent. Now you're putting him on Jet. This is his bread and butter. This is going to be a masterclass of Jet as these duelists will face off. MXS will just get some recons going for mid. A knife being pulled by the defense to check out a main. Might have just pinged Otoshima. Meanwhile, MXS will convert into tree, and this is going to set up GMD to go for paranoia play, and with Sim by his side, they'll be able to fire back, and MXS now being discovered are going to take a step back.
It was actually pretty good here for MXS to start. They pulled out the Owl Drone to keep players at bay and trying to work out the catwalk, but it's pushing Sim out, and unfortunately couldn't get the first blood there on Tamata.
And with the one-way, MXS stepped up thinking TSM were going to be there, and they go 1-for-1. They slip up, and 7 holds the angle, and against Vic, gets 2 kills out of that. And he's going for the third. Ruckus is trying to get the spike. There's a backstab from Otoshima, who's been playing A main this whole round. We're left in a 1 versus 2 with Otoshima's position revealed, but at least a spike in hand.
And thankfully, the last 2 players of TSM are still out towards heaven, so Otoshima could actually set that extra paranoia against TSM and potentially even get a plant wherever he wants. And he decides to go towards the A side because he has double wall pretty much, closing this door, walling up towards heaven, and this will potentially, and I mean, with those shots, he knows where the last 2 players are at.
Oh, the shock. Towards Jen, so Otoshima can get the surprise on that beautiful initial headshot. But a better trade out of poise. TSM with pistol. Some great anchoring being done here by 7 to kick things off for TSM and keep the dream alive here for the pistol round to finally come in favor of the T solo mid. It started off very well for MXS on how they worked that map, what I was trying to get to. They really pushed and pulled TSM into different angles around middle, around catwalk, setting up the extra paranoia, and you forced in a hand out of TSM to make a play. And as they come out towards catwalk, you actually had the upper hand fight that was won by MXS. But then you have players that could always pop off in these moments under the roster, under the banner of TSM, and it's this time 7 holding it down towards tree and allowing TSM to get pistol, and now the anti-eco where they're going to hold this back. There's just so much utility. The one-way is going to come across. They're going to get some counter utility being thrown, but everybody's already avoided this from TSM. The paranoia right through main there from TSM. Anything to delay MXS. And even GMD was in line, and MXS get torn apart, and even their lurk towards B got dealt with. But this is an open courtyard for Mata, but a Proto had the better lineup. So TSM have been able to negate a lot of the threats out of MXS in this round to dwindle it only to Brock and Otoshima that have to wait for this one-way cage to be gone. If anything, the silver lining is Otoshima is already 1 away from getting the ult. So after getting pissed around, getting the plant, getting a couple of kills, now he's got ult the next round in their gun round, which would give a chance here for MXS to really fight back against TSM and not allow TSM to really snowball away here from winning this flawless anti-eco. Especially if you can keep Otoshima alive later in the round so that this annihilation won't have anyone to really prevent it from fully taking place. So I like that this is going to be a play that MXS can lean on, as they're already leaning towards B. With an Odin too. And Sim there too. Yeah, they're really just trying to wallbang Odin, going for a heavy hit potentially, but this is a pop flash, a peek towards main here for, as you mentioned, Sim. Just wondering if Sim was gonna go around the corner, waits for information from TSM. It's a nice setup. The camera's watching out towards market, so you could passively watch information, but also at the same time watch back towards main. And it's instead the owl drone that calls for the peak. And Sim gets that first blood, just kind of delayed the engagement there. And MXS don't have Otoshima, don't have that annihilation, so look how much mid control there was for MXS. Like, they're pushed all the way in spawn. That's it. That Fly is pushed all the way out towards spawn while the rest of TSM are pushed out top mid. You think you have the read for TSM, but this is the biggest backstab now for Flya. Yeah, and TSM are just going to hold up on the site and hopefully to prevent them, but there's only so much you could do with a sheriff if you're Sim. And there is Flya paving down the road for MXS, dashing in to make noise to just set up Flya for the third. And MXS will plan off of that too.
Spike planted.
This is going to be it. MXS pretty much has this round. It's going to be almost impossible to retake a 2 versus 4 with the amount of weaponry that MXS has and the crossfire setup that they have inside the site. I think for TSM, the best bet you can do right here is to, because this is your bonus round, keep them in the site. Let them die to spike.
1 enemy remaining.
Or do that and die.
Yeah, listen to Vans, guys.
It's all good, right? Silver lining is it's a bonus round here for TSM, but I do like the initial play. I was talking about the camera before that was set by a proto. Not only that it watches towards Pizza, but it could also watch a little bit deeply into main, which would potentially be able to watch that lurk up and allow the flash and the double swing to come out right after from B main. But it was the Owl drone being thrown up by the attack side that really initiated and engaged the surprise attack that TSM had. But because they were so focused towards B main, it gave a perfect opportunity for Fly to slip through somehow through the utility on top mid and get behind enemy lines to get to 3K. He single-handedly took down everybody from TSM on the defensive side. And Sim now's pushing down towards bottom mid, is trying to look for a pick here. He's going to get pinged up by the Owl drone, and that's great patience out of MXS, knowing the aggression that can come out from here from Sim.
Ooh, he'll get one shotgun as a backup plan, but too far away to get the finishing blow as MXS just stomp their way in. Annihilation has already claimed a body, so MXS will have to do this a man down, and they're all pretty tagged up. MXS, they can just get Otoshima in a position for a post play.
My God.
And they just kick down the door. There's no one that's standing in MXS's way when it comes to this site. So GMD is probably going to be forced to save.
Yeah. And that's what it makes. Well, that's why Ascent is still very fun to watch, because yes, it's vanilla comps. It's different or similar ways to approach the match, or the map rather. But it really comes down to some great timings and how you take advantage of these timings. For MXS, knowing how it comes down to those matches where you understand the play styles of the players you're playing against more than the team or the composition in itself. So knowing that Sim could force out an op, run out towards the main, they waited for the Owl drone, and when you force out the dash, he can't go away anywhere anymore, so he's stuck towards Kench bench with the op, which allows MXS to just now tempo up towards mid and fight against the defensive side push. And on top of that, they added the later of the Annihilation from main to really take down the defenders towards market and allowing MXS to get such a clean take and a clean round here in this round number 4.
This will be the third round that Brock gets to keep this Odin too. And they got away with using Otoshima's Annihilation for a free kill too. So MXS, their offense was almost flawless on Sunset. They did get pushed to overtime once TSM had their final timeout started to recuperate. You can really never count out TSM until they're fully dead. But we'll see if MXS will be discovered leaning into B. This will be up to Proto's camera to catch this, and for Poise to maybe slow this down with a shock bolt, and with the net from MXS, it caught both right at the front door. So MXS are happy to greet them and even get a plant down.
A very simple swing out of your own smoke and hoping to win the double swing, and you win your individual duels. It worked out. Nothing you could do here for TSM. Potentially another moment where GMD is going to save his rifle, and the last two players are just going to look for the econ damage here for TSM. It's a nice try. High risk, high reward, because you're on a lower buy to try to fight out towards B main. But you definitely see that MXS, they are looking pretty confident and comfortable in these duel fights.
And MXS have been able to carry a lot of these weapons. They're losing maybe one or two as the rounds end high, and now they're kind of cursing me on this too early of a flawless call. But MXS's economy, they're getting pretty rich, and you don't want MXS to carry too much momentum, not like they did on Sunset, as GMD is getting hunted down left and right and won't get away.
Yeah, thankfully it was only rags for TSM for this round. Yes, GMD not able to save his rifle, but they should still be in a decent economy. As you can see here, GMD still was able to afford a rifle and full shields. But that just right there, and the amount of value that you get out of a deadlock on these pushes when you're trying to fight here as a team. The net that they throw towards the entrances, you could throw these through walls as well towards B main. This could also counteract against an Odin spam on the B site, where potentially why you don't see Poise trying to save up for the Odin as soon as possible and try to go for the wallbang in the end. But MXS, they're looking for a quick hit towards this B site once again.
Good initial damage and dwindle them down enough to get first blood for TSM. They're traded back. Hunter's Fury for Brock to push back TSM. A Proto slipped by though and was able to weaken MXS's offense even more. Vic is below half health. He'll get the plant, and Brock has an Odin, so I pointed out how many rounds he was able to hold on to that for, and GMD will be on the flank to hopefully steal that away from him. Brock is watching it though. And it's all about timing. Brock has 2 sightlines to watch. GMD comes up with the backstab. It's just Vic in the shadows, in the closet, gets flashed. Knows, at least on the left side, 7 will be there. Paranoia misses. Here's the push from TSM to look for the equalizer. As Vic did not know they were that close.
Yeah, they just tried by for the kill, which they had to tempo up very quick because there's not enough time left on that spike. I mean, 5 seconds left. If you dance around that a little bit more, and because he had so much utility, you don't really have too much time to throw a second flash, throw a molly. You just have to snuff out your last opponent. And as soon as you saw the shot coming out here in the back of the site, trying to bait those players in and hopefully isolate these fights, it didn't pan out in the favor here of MXS, and TSM are able to finally weather down the storm here on the B side hits, and that's just off great anchoring once again by a Proto, being challenged, avoiding the paranoia, getting a 1 kill, dying in the process, but delaying enough here to allow 7 and GMD to close out the round for TSM and keep this game fairly close in this first half. And mind you, because this map is so banal these days, it could go left and right. It's not always defensive side anymore. So MXS is still pretty good here on their attack side.
Yeah, and they counter that one way on the A side with a smoke in main, so TSM just have to give up a main sonic sensor there for MXS if you would catch, I don't know, Sim trying to dash out or anything crazy. So MXS just hold the angle to see. TSM are a team that are more likely than not, once time has gone by, they'll push out of their safe positions. And now that they haven't really done that with a minute left, MXS are going to test things out. Mata's made his way all the way through the back, and this is not the first time Mata has had free range on this map. And he tests your map control, and this gives an opening as TSM's backs were turned for MXS to step into the A site and plant.
So good, and look at the util coming out for Otoshima towards the end. A Proto's going to try to get a timing here. Elise gets it.
Perfect out. And Neural Theft too. Pulled out from a Proto. In a 2 versus 3. Spike gets tapped. Who's gonna come out of tree? They get a ping in hell, and a Proto can't get his gun up in time. It's the Odom that will best him. We're left in a 1 versus 1 for the lead, and it's 7 with 3.
7 once again and piss around, and now this round, not only with 3 kills, but getting that clutch towards the end, this simple clutch to allow TSM to take the lead in this second map. And boy, does he not want to go down without a fight. And he definitely wants to make sure that TSM has a fighting chance in the third map by pulling out all stops with an Odin of all guns. That slows you down so much when you're running across the map and you're still able to get perfect game sense off the hat being thrown by a Proto. Knowing the timings after those players are going to get pinged out by the neural theft and how you isolate these fights. Beautifully done here by both 7 and a Proto, but most importantly 7 for that clutch.
What's this? 7 has an Odin too, but he's just playing so far back. And Brock bought an Odin, went for half shields, or light shields, to get that going. And now it's just both teams barking at each other from the other side of the B wall, while TSM on catwalk, Bladestorm out. Sims has come at me, bro, but he's on the other side of green box, so this Aldro won't catch him, but it gives a sense of security for MXS to push up out of this, especially with the cages activated from Flya.
Thing is, there's
can pop out at any moment.
But that's the thing. There's no pop flashes. Look at where 7 is at. He's all the way back towards the B main. So for him to try to peek out of that, it was going to be terrible if he was going to try to do that. So I like that he pulls back, especially after the smoke came out on the attack. And now you stole things for a bit, but you're still seeing TSM staying active around the map. Now realizing that A side is clear. These 2 players on B are now ready for the hit. And they just have to set up as perfect as they could. While you have 7, again, with that Odin, that he could spray across, especially with a knife. Now, I think it may have pinged 1 player, but if not, poised.
30 seconds
You're hoping
left.
for that recon dart to come up fairly soon here.
MXS already pinging how they want to dash in above and beyond past the trips. A lot of space created as Mata explodes onto the site.
There's a dart.
Just trying to see where TSM are and haven't made any contact. There's 13 seconds left and MXS still have to actually go in the site. Here's the flash at a perfect time from 7. and it catches all of MXS.
One
And
enemy
there's
remaining.
no time to plan. There's only time to frag. And Otoshima has 2 targets left, and they escape in the shadows, and TSM will win the round.
And that is another 3K coming out from 7 in another round. And a beautiful pop flash too to allow the pinch to come back from the backside out towards the lane from those Blade Storm that Sim held back here towards that catwalk at the very beginning. So for him not throwing his body away allowed for him to have one of the most crucial kills up towards the lane with 10 seconds left and not allowing MXS to really flood inside that site. But there's such a great control in amount of utility and angles being held by TSM again, and these last second hits coming out from MXS. And even when MXS is able to get a plant down, TSM are finding great timings to bring it back into their favor when they're already posted up and trying to catch MXS reposition themselves in these post plants. And you're definitely seeing it now. The struggles are coming through on how MXS is working around the attack side since TSM had their money right. So they're calling out their first timeout.
I like the TSM when they don't get good enough information, like if Seven's throwing out a knife and they don't ping the whole team, or it's just really not convincing enough. TSM play out of sight, out of mind. They let MXS walk in, they let them take sites, and TSM hold power positions and just really want to swing and retake as a team, and especially off the contact of Seven when he makes that call with the flash. So patience really paid off for TSM. Not peeking when you don't have info, as well, they don't get first blooded as much. Now TSM have a lead and are on a win streak actually of 3 rounds in a row, and that's why the timeout had to come out from MXS of how do you slow down this team?
And you're seeing it, right? That's 3 defuses, 1 off time. So TSM not only good here on retakes, but also delaying when it comes down. They're okay to play down to the final seconds, and they're finding the right moments here to catch MXS off guard. Maybe it's a call now for Moisex Shopify to be a little bit, to tempo up a little bit more going into their gun rounds. But this important here, Blade Storm available for Mata. And it's hard for them. I was going to say, it's hard for them to take control towards tree like that when you're playing double sentinel. No KO to pop flash for you to move inside and take control of that tree.
TSM like to play far back. And those first
I
picks,
love that,
and
though.
Playa able to bite back at the very least. Seven thinks there's more around the corner. And the MXS have mid-control leaning already towards A, and Brock will get a Vandal out of it too. Can make this expensive for TSM and just couldn't flick fast enough towards Seven, who's held pizza very well for TSM, securing B for the defense. So MXS, they try to just march their way into A, steady aim for Otoshima with the SMG at range. It goes for the Sheriff, but TSM still had better weapons.
I at least like what I saw there from Flya. After they lost Mata in top of tree, he just held back towards the trip. And what he's trying to do here is to have his teammates shoot it from long range so that he could actually find the timing and push forward, and almost got that double kill right there. So thankfully there was some good spacing out of TSM where they didn't line up, so that you have the underhand flash thrown out by Seven that gets the kill with the Odin. But at least the play around that is actually quite nice, and that's what we're talking about, min-maxing on positioning and timings instead of approaches on the compositions. So that's a very nice approach, and MXS now has an opportunity off this timeout to run an op, and the op is towards B main. There's still a fast tempo though from MXS towards A side, but look at Sim though, misses a shot.
MXS have realized that TSM haven't really looked at these one-ways that they put at A, so MXS can now grab the orb, and that's another resource. 1 away from Hunter's Fury, 3 ults to use for MXS. And it's just the red carpet right into B. They haven't... Sometimes they'll insert Mata mid to run through pizza at the back spawn, but you don't want to make that too consistent, then TSM are going to figure it out. As this op from Mata. Again, TSM play out of sight, out of mind when they don't have information. And MXS, now their plan has been discovered through that smoke.
No way.
Odin takes 2 to the grave, and TSM shred them down to just a single member. When MXS had the ult advantage, it seemed like they had a good plan. And MXS just get fired down by just one big gun.
That's insane. Well, it's not the T-1000, isn't it? But it's just like a Terminator in itself. Being the KO, a 7, just running around with the Odin out in the open and getting a spray there onto Mata. And then on top of that, able to lay down bullets on other players trying to run behind towards B main. And I was going to mention that these two players, both initiators kind of playing towards this B site, hasn't been the best success stories for MXS's attempt to hit towards the B site. Because what happens at this point, if they actually force players to fall back within the site, you still have recon darts that could be thrown on the top. And Odin's going to spray from back site. You can throw a Hunter's Fury at some point too to use it towards the market. They have so much good utility and stall with just these two players within this B site that MXS needs a little bit more than just a dash to close the door and more utility to come through. Even the wall being thrown towards the back of the spawn is not enough because they can't break and find the perfect timing to really take down TSM. But they're going to attempt it one more time.
Standing ahead.
This time with Hunter's Fury.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. TSM, the same plan. Hunter's Fury to pressure them back. It actually pings Poise. I thought he was out of sight from that. Now TSM won't be able to just cut them at the heel as soon as MXS step in. This puts a lot of pressure on a Proto who barely dodges the net as they jump down. It's 1-for-1. And weakening MXS, you'll take every one of those picks if you're TSM, and Sim gets to keep the upper for really how long? Now the Owl drones are colliding in the air from the shadows from Vic. Will stick it to get to the backside and get away with a double kill on the flank. And TSM have Sim with it up, GMD with the Paranoia. It's a 2v2 on the post plant. Paranoia is going to hit Brock. He has green guns. And with the Odin, where is he in the smoke? Sim, just the better dance, the better defuse. TSM 8-3 now.
What a nice attempt by Vic for TPing all the way back towards the spawn to get those 2 kills. I was gonna throw a question mark to say, wait, they're throwing their flashes a little bit too early here for TSM. Seven already used both of his flashes to help clear out towards Switch and also try to defend backside when he already lost his teammate in the back over there. So they didn't have too much util to play the retake in that area. So MXS kind of forcing Vic on that TP towards the back enemy lines to try to get this double kill right here was kind of a saving grace at the same time, because now you have a Paranoia. The last 2 players are pinned inside the site for MXS, and it allows TSM to play this flash and dash and great crosshair placements and win again individual duels, but this time on their side, on the defensive side. Now allowing for them to string 6 rounds in a row on the defensive side, where this was supposed to go back and forth in the very beginning, and to see how MXS were working their attack side at the very beginning. But now it definitely looks like there's no answer so far, but they're at least still attempting a mid-control.
Sonic Sensor reveals someone's pushing up from TSM. Great first blood out of Otoshima, and MXS will see if they can claw back around to at least make this an 8-4 half after they had a wave of ultimates and just kept hitting their head against the wall when it comes to B, thinking the ults were going to be enough to set TSM back. Just took one good teleport out of Vic to make that round close, but no cigar. Lefting this
right
to be a 2v2.
And right now they saw the jump spot towards back mid, and he broke the camera on the B side. So they're trying to sell a fake towards A, so they can rotate players out towards the area and re-hit a weak side B with just a Cypher in there.
Yeah, and with MXS trying to get vision onto B, they get picked off, and even a double kill. TSM B control is insane. It's just untouchable. And MXS can't carve their way anywhere. Except now it's Otoshima in a 1v2. It's not impossible, but the jig is up. Paranoia catches them. And it's an easy win for GMD.
Yeah, and my apologies to cut you there, Lemon Kiwi, because it looked like they had a perfect read there for MXS. After seeing a jump spot in the back of spawn and breaking camera on the shed at the switch, you would think that most of the utility and most of the stall would now be towards the B side, because you have a Silva and a Cypher back there. Yet they still wanted to go against the grain and fight against TSM's hold on that B side, where a Proto just held perfectly with those one-ways, and that's signature Proto back on Ascent back in like 2021 of how he was playing this map, on how he was playing these one-ways on the Cypher and getting all those sheriff kills, which coined a Proto box crosshair that we all know and love. But that said, now TSM on a great tear on the defensive half and have a great chance and a great cushion here to push us over towards the third map, and they want to work as a death ball towards A.
Isn't it funny how MXS have never won Sunset, then they won Sunset. Now TSM have never won Ascent, and they're on the verge too. 9-3 halves. Very solid.
Do be like that in Challengers.
Welcome to Challengers, especially playoffs. TSM are a whole new team. What a quick flick from Fly to get that headshot too, to change targets so fast. TSM breaking in, just kicking Vic right in the face there, who at least holds his own. 3v3. This costed blood, sweat, and tears for TSM. Everyone is tagged up, and MXS coming through tree, through the smoke as a team. And the spike is trying to be planted. Maybe want to try and prevent that. They sneak their way out, and MXS just win every duel when they get these surprising swings. And a Proto has to dance. Very sturdy block in front of him. But MXS just more composed.
Yeah, towards the end there, it looked pretty good for TSM to fight back. They really wanted to try to surprise MXS on the flood retake, so they decided to fight back towards the door. But back on a 2 versus 2, just seeing that a Proto was able to pull his camera up and watch through that smoke, but unfortunately his teammate, I think that was 7, still decided to walk down the generator, play outside, just outside of the radius of that smoke, kind of just isolated each of them where they couldn't really play the perfect crossfire here, and MXS was able to salvage at least a pistol round into their onto their side. And again, we talked about what used to be 100% in terms of anti-eco for MXS, now probably at 98% because they lost the one in the first half on the first map. They're still looking pretty good here for a chance to snowball the economy and try to come back in the second half.
MXS are running the double senti. This is where their comp should thrive. 9-3 half though means that there's less of a buffer for failure, but the net catches all these fish, but MXS can't even hook them out of the water. Great peel out of TSM as they advance into A shortly.
Classics once again, but this A main position from Vic could be an important position for them to pinch back against TSM for the retake.
There is that pinch forming as Brock waits at the door. Fly to get into position. Vic to come through main. Make sure no one's in line. TSM are out in the open. And Fly is right above somebody. And Vic clears out hell from them. And here's the pinch from MXS is executed beautifully. They didn't lose anyone on that trifecta.
Yeah, and that's where it starts. Just having that first person picked off out in the open towards hell allows Flyer to move out towards the top of heaven to take down the player towards generator. And that was the other thing too. There were 4 players alive inside the site for TSM. Whose responsibility was it to watch on the top of heaven? It was potentially going to be whoever was hell, but now you're stuck watching main and heaven at the same time. And MXS is able to salvage that round. That could have been another bad news for MXS if they were to get eco just like they did on Sunset, and especially with the lead that TSM has built so far, it could have been over right there. But we are able to breathe now, and we're able to reset things around. The bonus round comes out for MXS, and you want to try to potentially work a little bit more aggressively here. There's potentially a paranoia coming out from Vic. It's a one-way to start, and now there's no paranoia to follow suit because he just got hit by the knife.
Double senti util all over B, thinking TSM have now failed twice to get into A. Surely they're going to try something else. Well, they're trying mid right now, while MXS may stack util on B, but all the bodies are at A. This could be another MXS pinch. TSM get caught out in the open too much. Now shooting down util, this drone, is it going to get eyes on Pizza or Market? Maybe it was looking more at B main, because there's someone else from TSM there. We have 2 running through main, and Brock has the Odin, stands tall against almost 3. As TSM at least get the trades. It's not over yet, but they left the spike behind. This is delays that TSM cannot afford. But every trade is another chance for TSM to take a swing. Finally having a successful plant is a start.
Notice Shima still has the wall.
From 2 different parts.
Notice Shima still has the wall, but he's not going to use it towards main because that's where Mata is going to pinch in from too. And a dash is also available from Mata, so he might be able to activate this to try to find information. And GMD's aiming between the legs of Sim, so they play a reverse high-low. That's insane.
Dangerous game of leapfrog there. TSM know where the threat is coming from. And Mata and Odashima are going to push. Double swing at the same time. Dash into the smoke. Great distraction for Sim. But it's GMD versus Mata. Time running out. And Mata gets the win against GMD in the closet. And should have enough time to get to the defuse. It's going to be close by 0.6 seconds. MXS retake.
And that was the biggest thing there from Mata for the retake with MXS. To be able to go for the dash through the smoke. You'll potentially see it through towards the replay, but that in itself just broke that high-low position that you just saw there from TSM, where everything was perfect until then. The ones isolated outside of the box on the top of the dice gets picked off, and there's nothing there that GMD could do because it gets walled off on the side. Where on the defensive side, Mata can still play back and forth. And it's quite surprising to see both duelists here at the bottom of the board, but it just comes to show how important it is for the support utility to step up to the plate for both of these teams in this matchup.
The impact of Brock's Odin, and I guess in Vic and Wine too. That's a great pick. It's the Odin getting that first blood for MXS, and Brock is built differently with this gun. He's killing more than I've ever seen. Neural Theft being invested by a Proto in a 1v4 is a choice, but hey, if you can start to take away some of these guns, if you can have a lineup advantage against your opponent, sure, but this doesn't seem winnable for TSM.
Juggling the weapons away too. Unfortunate there for a Proto. But he's got the box sheriff again. Boom. Boom.
Wait, what? Did I say unwinnable? It's a Proto. Okay. And he's got the spike. Because he used that neural theft so early, he just doesn't know where Vic or Orochima are. All he knows is they're not anywhere near the site right now. So now he's trying to get timing on people coming through both, and they're on the opposite side and just couldn't play his life enough. And it's Vic with the defuse.
I think he actually dinged Vix through the box. Look at him at 5 HP remaining. That could have been a Proto Sheriff back once again, chat. That would have been insane as a clutch. But you talked about the econ damage that was going to be important if a Proto could do it, and he definitely did so. 2 kills on top of that, getting a plant for his team, adding the bonus and 300 across the board for his teammates. After that plant is huge right now for TSM to try to turn it back into their favor. Look at the buy that you have now for MXS. Yes, they still have a strong gun round, but after this op that comes out from Mata, if they lose this round here, their next buy is going to be so broken for MXS. A great opportunity here for TSM to swing it back.
TSM, they haven't won a round on this half yet. MXS, double Senti really working out. 100 Fury early in the round gets a ping and get Kachi a few before he can teleport. And geez, what a first blood for MXS to start this round. And now seeing their TSM want to fight for Tree. MXS get all their deadlock utils set up. Sonic sensors everywhere.
Ooh.
Trying to get an op shot through Tree. Meanwhile, TSM have opened up Pizza. And with the recon bolt at MXS throughout, kind of seeing that TSM have cleared out of that area. And Sim has not moved from this position.
He's pinging out too. I think he knows that there's a sonic sensor there. So, or they want to try to walk across unless Sim gets his pick onto Tree.
Doesn't even care about that shock bolt. Didn't even... Oh, he just gets dwindled down. Brock is different with this Odin. I can't believe it. With an up holding an angle, Brock gets a win.
Yeah, and
insane.
With that angle, the barrel of the gun was probably sticking out before the knee did, and then he was able to pick him off there with that Odin. That was huge. But so far, MXS, the story of the last few rounds is the amount of times that they're getting first bloods in the first few seconds of the round 2. Great positions at the beginning so far on the defensive side for MXS.
That was Sonic Trip has been broken. TSM almost baited them into a false sense of security. And they only have 12 seconds left. The Annihilation claims one there for Orochima. And there's just not much else you can do. MXS with the double Senti are having a flawless defensive half.
Yeah, and we were praising at least 7 on the defensive side as a KO, really holding it down for TSM. And this time on the defensive side for Moistex Shopify, it is definitely Brock. And unfortunately, a tech pause to come through to stop the momentum for a bit, but I think it's much needed, at least even though the teams can't really talk to each other. It's a great opportunity for TSM to try to reset at least. How it started as a 9-3 half could potentially now become, once again, the good old 9-3 curse with how good the positioning from MXS have been in the beginning of these rounds. We've had first bloods towards Wines, first bloods from Brock on how he's been played the Hunter's Fury towards the Gelato, first bloods on the B side. Again, the defensive side, you're seeing that MXS really knows how to work their defensive side. And I stand corrected for one small thing when I thought Vic got headshotted for 145. Apparently it was a fight back towards Wine, but nonetheless, it still adds into the value of how much a Proto was able to chip into the economy of MXS so far. But after these flawless rounds, first bloods, multi-kills out from MXS, it doesn't affect them at all.
I can't imagine being a TSM fan. The stress that you must be under. A 9-3 half, and that lead is going towards dissipating, with MXS not dropping a single round, just denying tree control, as you pointed out. First, second, whatever bloods through holding the left side of the map. Of course, the Brock. We have the Brock factor. Big Brock, as the desk called him, who dropped, what, 25 plus kills on Sunset, to heading that direction again on this map. He and his team came so prepared, and you can't underestimate anyone when it comes to playoffs, especially TSM. But hopefully this tech pause clears soon, because I know MXS definitely want to ride this high.
Yeah, 28 kills on that first map here for Brock and 26 for Sim. And the story continues for Brock, but not for Sim at this point. But again, I don't think it's anything on Sim or Mata at this point. You're going into this game plan on this map of Ascent on how you could really try to avoid the aggression out of the Jet. Remember how many times we had ops coming out here from both the attack and the defensive side on both TSM and MXS, but there's really no true value coming out of it because they're doing a great job with their utility to try to snuff out where the Jet could be, push them away, and work in the opposite direction, and it makes it so much harder for you to retake the sites with an op. So both teams are really running great executions and defaults on their attack side to avoid these Jets to get so much impact. And that's why, like I said before, it's the supporting cast around it that really has to step up to the plate at this point. You need those anchored players to come through. You need the double swings to be on point here for the protocols on how you're taking map control on the attack side. And they've both been really good. It's just now on the defensive side for MXS. Well, we talked about it earlier on. They need to find ways now for TSM to just stop these first deaths that they're getting in the first 10 seconds of these rounds.
MXS just gets such good information. They're riding double sentinel, or they're either littering the left side of the map with sonic sensors, barriers, trips, everything to make Sim's life so annoying. I mean, he's 7 and 13. I don't blame him. You dash in after having to already updraft to avoid some of the trips and some of the traps. And then Otoshima will switch up and now put a bunch of sonic sensors at A, as TSM will take this long break to finally get to talk to each other. Because this lead is slipping away. I
think that's the biggest thing, too, for both coaches coming in. Mac on the side of MXS with Otoshima as the IGL for both Faded of TSM and Poise now taking back the reins of the IGL. It's been going back and forth between both Poise and GMD. But getting such a long pause, there's definitely some things here that the coaches have been thinking about of the state of the game so far. And that Faded needs this time now to express that and see how TSM could stop giving up these first deaths now against MXS. And right now it's just out positions, pushed forward as we have Vic sometimes holding towards the wine. They need to leverage this double initiator utility and composition that they have for TSM to really try to find if there's early aggression anywhere at the very beginning, because that means it's weak side on tree if they're pushing out towards A main. It's weak side on middle if they're pushing out towards B. So they really need to leverage that a little bit more and then maybe try to leverage a proto on these lurks.
And with MXS having Brock so good with the Odin, it makes B site just so unattractive for TSM. So you go towards A, where you can't even get control of tree, and that's just step one with all the sonic sensors and all, like we said, the Otoshima util everywhere. So TSM haven't had a good option. Sometimes they'll sit in the sonic sensor to give a sense of security at MXS, and they still won't even peek it. So TSM have had no advantages to work with, not a lot of first bloods in their favor. And now they have a broken buy where they'll have a neural theft, and a proto is pulled off almost some miracles in a 1v4 using that. So
Standing ahead.
It starts off there, right? They pull the camera at the very beginning to see towards a catwalk push, a recon dot towards the market very early at the same time. Although, unfortunately, here for TSM, this is a Laura buy. They have only Sheriff Stingers and a Hero Vandal right now for 7 to try to work the map. They're just going to wait out this wall as it gets weakened down with the decay and then going for the full exit right after, because they just gave a tell where they're all at.
yeah.
Spike retrieved.
Also costed some bullets too to do that. So an early barrier for Motoshima, and he still has a net. If he senses TSM are about to creep in, that net will slow them down, and even if Sim dashes past it to disjoint TSM, to cause chaos, they may thrive in it, but MXS are meticulous. And there is the presence, there's a knife. TSM just gets ran down by an op. Mana's unstoppable behind this box. Maybe TSM thought he was in heaven, and through all the smokes, the fire, and the flames, MXS on top.
So it started off well. The camera and the owl drone clears out towards middle, towards market. The only thing right now, though, is that I didn't really see if there was any pressure from the op towards A main or towards B. And you really can't know on the B side because you've already used your camera on top middle. So you're just going in blindly, and that's Mana going to work, going to town once again. And when you're actually given a chance here for the op and the jet to get value, well, that's the result that you get here on the receiving end for TSM. And thankfully here is that they know that MXS still has this op. They have Bladestorm now available for Mata, and they can work the map a little bit more by trying to figure out where this offer could be. Camera, once again, finally spots Mata. Will this be a pivot for TSM to fast work towards the A site? Can't. Stop by wall.
Like, okay, well, Mata went Giga Chad last round. Let's try this again, because TSM failed to get trees, so they're just going to flood in from one side. And there's the Blade Storm from Sim dueling up against Mata and the rest. And TSM put a good dent into this defense. Mata is above those. Still with the op, and it's a Proto with the backstab who came from tree, went through glass, came from behind. Flya is going to neural theft in a 1v3. And the spike is down, or it's planted. And Fly gets a ping and just hopes the wall bangs, but it's a late position and a change. And TSM download him.
A firing squad on the pulse plan too, just to lock down Fly and not give a chance here for Fly to get any value or even lose more weapons in the process for TSM. But everything went according to plan to what potentially Faded was cooking up here. They figured out that the op was towards middle. Let's fast hit towards the A side. Beautiful KO knife too that nullified a lot of the utility. I think it also hit the Omen, so Vic can really throw a paranoia to add extra stall into the hit for TSM. And then Pro gets the late lurk right after that, gets a double kill on the top of heaven. So everything worked out to perfection. But now MXS using their last timeout to try to counteract, not give the momentum back here for TSM. And Proto, I mean, again, stepping up to the plate at this point. We talked about the civil war between the most moist moguls, ex-compatriots here from Proto and Sim against Vic, Brock, Otoshima as an assistant coach in the past. And Proto, it almost feels, you could almost feel how important this would be for a Proto to beat MXS and to go to Mexico for the Ascension playoffs by beating MXS on top of that.
But that took in a Proto flank through glass to really catch MXS's defense. That was the first offensive round win for TSM in this half. They're going to have a ton of ults, and they have a good buy now, minus, you know, the light shields. But that took a big play out of a Proto. So okay, it worked out going through A main, just flood all in and have a Proto go through tree, but that was the only time MXS slipped up.
And they'll still try to do it, though. The slip up is around what information TSM's getting, how they fast tempo through it. But this time, you're seeing that MXS are not being as aggressive at the get-go towards middle, because they've actually posted up Mata into A main, out towards the wine. And this gives a chance now for TSM to really work the map towards middle. Lots of utility being used at the very beginning by both initiators. But they haven't really gone too much information on their side. Neither did MXS, because they're playing very passively. Look at how they have to watch the crosses all the way back towards spawn, because their camera is being used towards main. So they have no real information on if TSM's really working middle or not.
Well, Sim is in see something, say something mode, where he's just walking down with
exactly.
an op. Nothing standing in his way. It's TSM going back to plan A, to just flood through main, but someone in line is going to try and prevent this as Mata. His presence is detected. You know who is there, but not where. And he didn't get the initial shot on the updraft. Sim with the Blade Storm.
30 seconds left.
Mata has to go big here. He's not going to get any backup, and he couldn't take anyone 6 feet under with him. So TSM, first blood, with the lead that they stole back in their favor. The null command popped by 7 as TSM, Surge and Fly in Hell couldn't play off the smoke. GMD is different. And TSM from front to back take the win.
And another pathing coming through this time around on the top of Tree. And Proto through the glass, getting another backstab. But that first knife that goes out towards Wine was huge by 7. I was getting a little bit scared, though, because they weren't adding extra utility to really take down Mata. There was no KO Molly. There was no shock darts coming through. They really just tried to leverage Sim updrafting and hoping to go for a trade. But thankfully, they still got the kill, activated null command, and those players inside the site couldn't do anything. And I stand corrected one more time. Flya apparently is the one calling here for MXS2, taking the responsibilities away from Otoshima. Now Pop Flash to take main control for TSM. And the knife also clearing out towards Wine, and TSM are looking at Temple very quickly once again towards A.
Getting some drone info, and Sim's just gonna do all the dirty work for him, but he just walks into the line of sight of all of MXS, while the rest of Sim's team was blocked off by a barrier thrown by Otoshima. And now with the net too from MXS, they've really slowed down TSM. And when you don't have a jet, it's gonna go even slower. From the shadows from GMD isn't gonna stick it because MXS, they've already downloaded this strat.
Oh, this knife.
TSM walk in. Now the smoke has dissipated. So just with the Odin, just through bullet hell, MXS have to stay firm. But it's TSM that outnumber them and outfire them to go to 12, to go to match point.
Match point now for TSM, turning it around since the timeout again from Faded a couple of rounds ago. And it continues with great utility. Yes, we slowed down the tempo a bit. This was a nice attempt. Look at the trips being set up all the way up towards Generator and also towards the boxes to stop any type of updraft dash that pulled a perfect slingshot to catch the dash out from Sim. But everybody else just behind. 7 with the Odin, getting all of these kills. And then the ult from GMD, even though it wasn't stuck, it saw 2 players out of 4 towards spawn, which once again, TSM knew they had power of numbers to flood back towards the A site. Now with no ults left though, this is a great opportunity for MXS to turn it back around and potentially push this to another overtime because they need a lot of rounds here for TSM before ults come back, but they only need 1 to close the map.
Oh, this drone might have spotted a gun, not sure, but MXS had an early ping on B main too, and TSM knew they did not want to stay in that hallway, not with Brock buying an Odin almost every round, and now 7 has to match it too. So if Brock were to unleash, well, 7 would give him a taste of his own medicine. And TSM don't have a lurk of a Proto going somewhere else, so a lot of map control of TSM is being given up just to really reinforce this flood right through main as TSM Sim right through all the trips, all the smoke, and 7 just gets a lucky hit through all of that, and MXS don't get a single pick. Waiting as TSM walk in, puts Fly in the closet. It's done already good damage, but he gets overwhelmed too. TSM has the numbers, doubling the forces of MXS. TSM with the plant, going for the win so that they can send us into our deciding map of Haven. It's up to Vic and Otoshima.
Here.
Grouped up on Paranoia.
Oh, but just too quick on the draw is a Proto as Vic. It's been an impossible task ahead of him. With the Paranoia, he sets himself up, but with the recon, he'll know when he swings and where. And now time is running out as Vic has to deal with that recon bolt, and well, he does a good job now. There's only 2 in the smoke, but he has to kill them here and now, or the defuse may not be possible. And he gets 4 for his efforts. But how does he have enough time?
Oh my
he doesn't. TSM win another map off the skin of their teeth just like yesterday. And we go to Haven.
Look at the sigh of relief coming out from a Proto. It was going to be another one of those moments where TSM could potentially win a round and have a 4 versus X or so many numbers at an advantage and just let that falter. But thankfully, they had a 6th player in the roster, and it was the timer of that spike, which allows now TSM to push this to a 3rd map. Everything will now be decided into a BO1 on Haven between TSM and MXS to see who's going to be our 2nd team going into Mexico.
and TSM and MXS are both 2-1 on Haven. So this is anyone's series. Could TSM cause our second, maybe biggest upset after already knocking out Oxygen? Are they truly the King Slayers of North America? Well, we got to throw to a break. Everybody needs to chill out. We'll hear from the desk, and we're going to decide who's going to Ascension.